Hey, welcome everybody to the Thinkers Lounge. As we know, COVID and the lockdown has really taken its toll on us, on our mental health. It's a big rising issue all over the world. And in Singapore, we call it the circuit breaker as
Mm.
well. And today I have a very special guest, Billy. He is a hypnotherapist and a master trainer in NLP, and he has been in the industry for over 2 decades. So, yes, Billy, just quickly share with our audience more about yourself.
Yep. First of all, good evening, everyone, and thanks for joining us. I have actually stopped my own live stream for about 2 months now. Initially started with taking a break, and seems like a longer break now.
Yeah. So I'm very fortunate that you've joined us on the Thinkers Lounge, and yeah, I'm very impressed with your journey in this industry, having helped and reached so many people all around the world.
Hmm.
So with the current crisis in the pandemic, you mentioned that we are able to find possibilities in the pandemic.
Right. I think quite often we get distracted and sidetracked with the and overestimate the power of difficulties, and by contrast, then we have underestimated the power of possibilities. So I think, given the resilience that we humans or humankind have shown over the many pandemics that we've had before, we've always bounced back and we've always come back stronger. Right. So to me, I see this as possibilities within the pandemic. In any given situation, it's always the people that makes the difference. Yeah, we can't
Okay,
control whether it's going to rain or not, but we can control how we feel about the rain.
definitely. Yeah. So I mean, we hear that there are a lot of people going into depression because of financial stresses, relationship stresses. How do we overcome all these negative thoughts that can pervade our mind during these trying times?
Right. I think when times are trying, all the more we need to become more sensitive, all the more we need to become more acute with our senses and start paying attention to our environment, to the people, maybe even within ourselves. So first off, understanding the root causes, understanding what are some of the potential triggers that's resulting in a lot of this psychological challenges, mental challenges, and difficult situations. It's kind of like the pandemic itself is already difficult, right? And we are not helping ourselves by making it more difficult, right? Both for ourselves as well as for other people. I couldn't find any statistics online for Malaysia, especially now when with the second CMCO kicking in. As it is, two of my Malaysia team members are now in quarantine, having just returned to Malaysia from Singapore. We just completed a 10-day training here, where we complete the physical life certification training. In Singapore, there was a 22% increase within the first month of our circuit breaker. We call it the circuit breaker. Within the first month when the circuit breaker kicked in Singapore itself, there was an increase of about 22% in family violence. Wow, which is quite staggering, and it is of course very scary. And what they have found out is actually the mental health states of affect people regardless of whether their work is affected or not, regardless of whether their financial status is affected or not. In other words, work being stable, financial status being stable, people get affected, and mental health suffer as a result of that. So I think fundamentally we need to go back to understanding human beings. I think we know the Maslow hierarchy of needs. For one, that we are all social beings. So with social distancing, with this lockdown, with the CMCO, with circuit breaker and all that, it created a lot of social isolation. And therefore our need for our social needs, especially the extroverts among us, would be probably the first one to suffer. No one to talk to, no one to interact with. So that's one. So understanding where are the causes, where are the triggers, can help us to better manage the situation by being aware and then acknowledging that problem exists, asking ourselves the right question, coming up with the right answers, and then taking the right actions. There you go. I just came up with a 5A strategy there.
Very valuable.
Increase, by staying at home, that means your personal space, your personal time is also invaded, to
Mm.
say invaded, by family members, right? So there used to be the time where we have to be reporting to work in the morning, and having a day off or two is a luxury that we all love to have, right? And now we have this luxury, and seems like it's too much.
Yeah, yep,
So
yeah.
household demands, the demanding task of caring for their children, being there for 24/7 with each other, is what potentially create a lot of conflicts. And
Yeah.
to add on to that, I think initially a lot of businesses and corporations don't know how to react to that. But subsequently, when they decided to react to that, they kind of overreacted with overwhelming meetings online and overwhelming training sessions and just keeping the people busy. And so it became another new worry,
Mm.
because now with this flexibility of work hours and whatnot, people are having meetings at 9 o'clock in the evening. People are having meetings at 11 o'clock in the night. And then the worry comes, when things go back to normal, when we start going back to the workplace, are we going to be having meetings at 9 o'clock now? Are we going to be having meetings at close to midnight now with the new normal?
Mm.
So fulfilling all these work demands and influx of online meetings, training, and all of that is another thing that's invading into our personal space, our personal time, and therefore causing more potential interpersonal conflicts, right? And then children get frustrated because their routine is being disrupted. They cannot engage in all the physical activities to burn off all the physical energy, and so they become another issue at home. So it's kind of like everything layered onto one another,
Mm.
and coupled with that, all the media frenzies and all that. And if I may, everyone and anyone has an opinion. And it's one of the cheapest commodity on earth, right? And that resulted in a lot of toxic ideas being spread around, poisoning our young minds, changing beliefs and shaking beliefs and all that. So, for instance, we had an influx of requests for coaching with teenagers who now feel that all this hard work and all that kind of like go down for nothing if we are just going to vanish like that. And then coupled with the added stress of when they go back to school having to play catch up, and now with the exams and all of that. Well, Singapore is well known for that, with a very demanding educational syllabus to be fulfilled. So I think a lot of them are losing hope. They are they are, they are negatively impacted. All their life goals have changed, their ambitions have changed, the meanings of life has changed. And so when children are affected, when the teens are affected, they're going to negatively impact on the family settings as well. And so everyone is frustrated within themselves, and they're starting to vent their frustration with each other, causing a lot more issues, family violences, abuses, mental health issues, and all. So all of this contribute to what? Stress, anxiety, increased frustration, irritation. Every little bit becomes an issue,
Mm.
right? And then the panic buying, the stereotyping towards a certain group, or young people are not cooperative, they are still grouping together. All that finger pointing, the superiority, the inferiority complex, everything kick in, so it's now all embroiled together. We're in a hot pot.
Yep. Yeah. So I think that's a lot that you shared over there, and I think one of the key things that you shared was that during either lockdown or circuit breaker,
Mm.
we are stuck in our household, and if we have well, there's the problem of those who are alone
Mm-hmm.
and those who have either family members or relatives around,
Right.
right? So with those with family members and relatives around, it's it has that friction. I find that
No,
the
because
more.
the personal space is reduced, you know,
Yep.
and your personal time is now invaded.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yep.
say what you like, you're supposed to be a family and all of that, but too much within within too short a time is not good. Anything that goes on the extreme is not good. It's
Mm-hmm.
going to have a negative impact.
Yep. So would you say for cases like that, in order to adapt and to maintain our own space, we just really need to draw a line or boundary and say, hey, at this period of time, it's me time or it's me focusing on my work, uh,
Mhm.
and to really draw that understanding and
I,
framework.
I say it's a good time to reorganize. It's a good time to restructure. It's a good time to reflect. It's a good time to get your family involved. I mean, like it or not, they're going to be there, right? And sort of saying like, I'm the head of the household, and therefore this is my personal time, this is my personal space. That would not be a recommended approach on my part. But rather getting everyone in the household involved, in reorganizing, in restructuring. That way, the kids have a say. All right, and everyone has a say. So utilize this time. I mean, we've always complained that we Asians are very hardworking people. We work for hours and hours, and we stay and we still bring home work and all of that. So now we have this opportunity to really spend quality time, taking the opportunity to change amidst the changes. How about that?
Mm,
I mean, the change is unavoidable, right? It happens. We cannot go anywhere. There are precautions that needs to be taken and all of that. So I say involve the family in organizing, in planning routines, in daily activities, coordinating personal space and time so that we're not rubbing each other's shoulder all the time. That creates conflict, right? So that in a way we are also setting clear expectations and boundaries, right? And really making use of this time. We've always talked about quality time when we don't have the quantity. Now we have the quantity. All the more we can make better quality out of it, and yet we seem to go the other direction, which is quite strange. So take this as an opportunity, discover the possibilities, as I suggested for the topic this evening, right?
yeah.
Possibilities amidst the pandemic,
Mm,
right? Really making use of this time, reflecting on your personal goals. Take time to talk about it. Hear your teens, hear your children out. What are their goals? And how is it going to change moving forward? And planning everything and planning things together so that there's a time to play together. And now we have more time to play together. And then there's a time for your meetings and your work, and there's a time for your own personal space.
mm. Yeah. So you mentioned about routine. Now, why is routine so important,
Mm,
especially at the time like now?
I okay because on a normal basis, with or without the pandemic, we are all in a routine.
Mm,
Suddenly, that routine is disrupted. Right. Suddenly, there's no guidelines that this is the time you ought to be in office, and this is your work hours, this is your lunch hour. Suddenly, we have free play, so we are not used to that, and hence I recommended the replanning of routine, restructuring, reorganizing of a routine. Setting up a new routine because of things have changed, because the situations have changed, right? So we are conditioned. We're very used to routine. Suddenly, we don't have a routine to work on. Is free play. By right, it ought to be good,
mm,
right? But then so what? You're gonna be lazing around in the bed all day for how many days now, and how many more days to come, right? Rather than doing that, replan out a routine, get settled into the new routine,
mm,
so that we ourselves know at what point in time of the day we ought to be doing what, and
mm,
knowing and acknowledging that we now have more time, that we can actually get more things accomplished.
mm. It's good. So
Pick up a
how?
new hobby, pick up a new hobby, rediscovering your meaning in your life, right?
Mm,
Um, During this period, Singapore, for example, a lot of people started taking on exercises.
mhm,
because there's a good time you don't have to wear your mask, right? And then you got nothing to do, and so much friction at home and whatnot, and conflict. So go out there, get some exercises done. I got a lot of people reporting good news about losing weight and everything, so I guess it's a good thing too.
Yep.
Right? But if you choose to stay at home and just keep eating and eating, okay, then that's your consequences.
Mm, yep. So how is it that people can start instilling that discipline? The problem is we all know that we need some form of discipline in our lives in some
Mm,
area, but the question is, how do we start, how do we break through that resistance and really just build up that momentum so that
mm,
we are consistent and build that discipline?
I think for one, start with yourself, within yourself. All right, start reflecting, thinking about your own personal goals. How has this impacted you, and that how has this situation impacted your direction and your goals. Is there a need to realign yourself? Is there a need to rediscover meaning for yourself? All right, so start with yourself. Reflect on your own personal goals, your own personal meaning, your own personal motivation. Do a skills inventory. Start taking stocks of your own skills and abilities. With all the influx of meetings and trainings online and all that, I mean, hey, trainers has no stages now. No classroom to go to. All started crowding into this virtual space. Be discerning. So start by taking stock of the skills, your own abilities, your knowledge that you want to develop. That way, you're not exposed to one training after the next, but rather you get to live by design. You get to plan what you want to learn. You get to plan what you want to develop, and take on the right kind of training for yourself. And so start taking responsibility for yourself, right?
Mhm.
Starting with yourself, and then, as I mentioned, also then involving your family members, right? Setting a new direction for your teens. This could be a good time for you to share your life experiences with them. Um, Spending quality time together, doing things together, um, is an opportunity for you to be involved in their life now. And so I thought it would be a good opportunity actually, to start getting involved. So yeah, so take your personal time and space, reflect on yourself, do a skills inventory, do a check on your goals, your life mission. How has that changed? How has your values changed? I mean, in times like that when it's so volatile, any one of us can catch the virus, and then a number of things can happen to us. How about making use of the time that we have to really do something meaningful?
And so, like with what you shared about building that discipline,
Mm,
really keeping track of our core strengths, essentially finding
right.
our inner calling and purpose.
Mm,
What about within the context of our own physical health? Because what
mm,
I tend to see is, uh, especially in the personal development industry, there's a heavy emphasis on mindset.
right.
But through my experience, physical health and well-being also plays a huge role
Mm-hmm.
because of uh, it determines whether you have that mental willpower, the energy to really push forward day by day to instill new habits.
Mm. Well, okay. Well, I agree with what you said about so much emphasis in the self-help industry about mindset and all that. Really, do you know how to change your belief? Say you discover now you have a limiting belief. Do you know how to go about changing that limiting belief?
Mm,
Not a lot of useful ideas out there, right?
yep,
Not a lot
yep.
of steps out there, and also it's a good time to start really picking up skills that make a difference, right? Coaching skills, for example, has been an in thing from the last 5 to 10 years, with a lot of people developing a career now as a professional coach, acquiring the skills required to deal with the psychological aspects of ourselves, the emotional aspects of ourselves as well as the physical aspects of ourselves, helping to coach other people as well as yourself. How about picking up coaching skills? Not so much that you can be a coach. I mean, it would be good if you be want to, but that you can use those skills to help yourself. Changing your limiting beliefs, turning them into liberating beliefs, for example, right? And then that physical well-being that you mentioned. Well, it all starts with the mind, isn't it?
That's true.
The mind doesn't think about wanting to do something physical or
Mm.
wanting to do something to your physical being and your appearances and all that. Then obviously you have no time. I mean, previously we had no time. Now we have time. So a part of reflecting on your personal goals and all, how about also reflecting on your physical goals, your health goals, for instance, and make use of the time that we now have and establish a new routine. I mean, previously it was like, okay, 9 hours in the office, coupled with the traffic jam. By the time we come back home, we are already suffering from physical fatigue. We are very tired. And so those were the excuses. Those were the reasons that sound good previously,
Yeah.
you know. But now we have good sound reasons because we have time.
Mhm.
Right? We have control of what we can do, and yet people are not doing anything about it. So again, I think let me come back to the same thing: becoming more aware of your psychological state, of your physical well-being, of your emotional states and emotional well-being. These are all areas where we can acquire new knowledge in, acquire new skills in, so that we can self-help, and then we can pass these abilities around.
Mhm.
Yeah. So anything, just like anything that we like to pursue, a physical goal, a health goal, for instance, it start by you sitting down, evaluating where you are now, deciding where you want to go. All right, and then identifying the roadmaps and the milestones, and then breaking it down into physical action plans that you can take.
Mhm.
Yeah, you don't have to start off by running 5 kilometers. Just go out there and walk for 5 minutes for a start. Slow jog for 5 minutes. Trust me, if you haven't done this for a long time, that itself is enough to that itself is enough. Right, and then start building up your stamina from there. So I think it's also a great opportunity to manage all the three different aspects within ourselves: psychological, emotional, and your physical well-being.
Mhm.
Yeah, and speaking of which, all these conflicts that we were mentioning about earlier on, all these demands and the lack of routine, the challenges of our need for our need to socialize and all of that. It's a good opportunity for us to become more emotionally literate and intelligent and start identifying what emotions we are feeling ourselves and address all the negative emotions. If we are flooded with all negative emotions from the inside, how are we going to be doing anything positive on the outside?
Mhm. What would you say uh, are the role of our emotions? What is its purpose?
I'm sorry, can you say that again?
Yeah. So what's the purpose or role of emotions in our lives?
Emotions, okay, for a long time we have always separated, thinking from emotions, right? We always say that you operate from the head or you operate from the heart, right? Implying that the head is responsible for the thinking, for the mindset, and then the heart is the one that's responsible for the emotions. Oh well, the update here is this. All right, the heart has no emotions. It doesn't process emotions. Emotions are manifested in the head. They are being processed in the head. Emotions are thoughts that are given the juice, right? Because emotions is what compel people to act, whether we respond to a situation which is positive or whether we react to a situation which is negative. They are motivated. They are driven by these thoughts that has the juice, all right, and that's emotion. So one, being emotionally intelligent is about having self-awareness, is about increasing your emotional literacy, being able to identify the emotions that you're feeling and identifying them accurately so that we can then take measures to deal with it, right? So in the past, when we are also consumed with external routine and activities and demands with the work, the school, and everything else, we lack time and space and opportunities, if you like, to go within ourselves. Now is a good time to go within ourselves, right? Think about it. When was the last time you got angry? And that situation in which you got angry, was that warranted? Is the anger warranted, or have you over angered? If you were to rate that anger in that situation, what would be appropriate anger? If it's supposed to be a 6 out of 10, but then you were angry 8 out of 10, obviously you have compounded anger, you're carrying anger around, right? You're one of those people who walk around like a volcano, waiting to be erupt, waiting for any trigger, and then boom, there you go, you're erupting. And when we don't deal with these negative emotions that we accumulate, they will intensify, right? So we accumulate all our life little frustrations, irritations, annoyance. And we thought, okay, well, they're very small issues. We try to reason out within ourselves in our head. And why it's a small issue, just let it go, be a man, walk away from it, right? Thinking that by doing so, it goes away. It doesn't. What happens is all these small little negative emotions start to accumulate within ourselves. They intensify. Annoyance becomes anger. Anger becomes rage. So deal with it, and more so, I think this is a great time to deal with it, because you don't have to, be thinking very hard. All right, like, what am I feeling? What am I feeling? More so, not a man topic, right? Oh, what am I feeling? What am I feeling? But that the feelings present itself. The stress is there, the frustration is there, the snapping at your spouses is there, the nagging at the kids is there. What's motivating? What's underpinning all of these external behaviors? All right, and from there, find out what these emotions are, and then deal with them accordingly.
Mm.
Right. So there are a variety of things that you can look into. I'm an NLP master trainer. Obviously, I recommend NLP. I feel that NLP is like life's instruction manual. Because we have a powerful machine in our head. We have powerful capabilities and the power of choice within ourselves, and yet we don't often make the best decisions for ourselves. Right? I mean, think about it. Right? Yesterday evening, for instance, when you don't have a live stream, you are sitting at home. A part of you wants to put on shoes and go for a run. Another part of you want to continue to sit down and do nothing. You end up doing.
Yeah, sitting down. Yeah.
There you go. See, when we have internal conflicts like that, the negative one somehow always wins, unless we start to harness our internal drive and motivation. All right, really deciding on the plan and then sticking to the plan by physically acting it out. So like I said, you don't have to go for a 5 kilometer run, just go for a 5 minute jog. Yeah. My daughter came up with creative ideas together with my wife. They start running up and down the staircase of our apartment block here, and that itself is good exercises.
Yep. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what I find interesting is that we talk about dealing with the root of the problem, right? And what we find is that we have a group of people who this tends to be people who are more towards let's say they focus more on law of attraction, for example, right? I, I find that there are people within that group that says, hey, you should not focus on your problems,
Right.
Because what you focus on expands. So what they do within that context is they avoid, and then this keeps repeating itself until it gets bigger and bigger,
Right.
and then it just explodes them. So how would you share dealing with problems within the context of the law of attraction?
NLP call it perception is projection. What you perceive inside, you project outside. What you perceive and project, that's what you attract, right? I mean, have you ever wondered, like, the people whom you detest the most, they always come and test you. Right. So my take is life has a way of teaching us a lesson. And these lessons can come in the form of people, they can come in the form of situations. And it is for us to become aware of how we have been reacting to these situations. And of course, I'm very particular about the language we use. The word reacting means is negative, right? So instead of reacting, how can you respond to that? Right. For instance, with all the panic buying that happened when we first had the circuit breaker, when there was first CMCO, and in many parts of the world locked down, people start cutting queues and end up in fights and all that. How about being, instead of reacting to the situation, taking the opportunity to develop your character, developing your personalities, developing your patience. There's a better way to go about communicating to the other person rather than just using a brute physical force. And if you have the energy to get into a fight with people, how about using the energy to really go do something, go do some exercises or whatnot? I would love to be able to physically do more exercises, all right? But I have a medical condition that rendered me a little more immobile and disabled.
Mm-hmm.
All right, but still within the context, it is up to us. There's a lot of things we can do. We cannot go to the gym now. Bring the gym to your home. There are tons of exercises, machines, and whatnot. If you've got nothing better to do, go start reorganizing some of the rubbish, put them together into a bag. That itself can become weights that you can lift, that can help you tone up your muscles and shoulders and whatnot a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
So I think within the context, there's always up to us to exercise our power of choice, our power of decision, blending positive thinking to create positive emotions and driving forces, and acting positively. Right? There are those people whom I know who are very extroverted. Suddenly got have to do social distancing. They get creative. They get involved in charity, they get involved in volunteering work, delivering food to the elderly who are alone, and really putting their time and energy into good use. So it's about exercising, the right frame of mind. It's about bringing up, eliciting the right emotions, and physically doing the right things. And it's a cycle, right? If that's something that is a must do, then go ahead and do it. Right? Don't worry about being tired and fatigued, and the energy will renew by itself. Right? But too often we focus on reasons rather than on results. So I think for one, changing that mindset. Okay, if you believe in the law of attraction, good on you. All right, what's happening in your life right now? What have you been attracting? What would you like to attract instead? And how can you go about doing that? All right, start developing the action plans and go about and just do it. Yeah, and then you find that it becomes a vicious cycle. What you focus on is what you get.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep. And
Hence,
what?
I thought it's a great time to just get rid of all the limiting beliefs, get rid of all the accumulated negative emotions, and really taking positive actions, doing things that are right.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Some time ago, I did a live stream, and I think I was among one of the first people to go online and start talking about the new normal, the new normal, the new normal, right? And it's about managing your mindset. It's about being mindful of things and what's going on around you. It's about uh, taking meaningful actions and movements to get things going. Yeah. And then you reap what you sow.
Mm. So what would you say to people who who are reluctant or stubborn to take ownership or responsibility of their lives? How do you
It's other
personally
people's
nudge?
fault, right?
Yeah, yeah. How do you nudge
Government,
those people?
other people's fault. Take responsibility for your life. As simple as that. Man up, all right. Do the right things. Have the right thoughts. like I said, there will be people who will continuously come and put you to test. Question is, why are these people such challenges for you? What what have you been doing that's been attracting all these kind of people into your life? And very soon, if you don't realize it by now, you are actually part of them. You know, how can you become a small little positive force in your life, in your own sphere, in your own space, and let it radiate from you outwards? You know, like during this time when couples get to spend a lot of time together, instead of spending time together, rekindling all the good memories and all of that, they started getting historical with one another, and then we get hysterical with one another. Very soon, okay, couple therapy, right? Couple coaching. Um, it's about focus, isn't it? Right? If we're going to be focusing on the fault of the other person, I mean, think about it. During dating times, her faults, all her weaknesses were cute. 20 years later, no longer cute. 24 hours by 7, all the more irritating. How and since when did it become an irritation? Have we forgotten to focus on the positive in the other person? You know, I think it's a great time now to like rekindle things, right? My wife just had a suggestion recently, just for information to your viewers. I'm married for 27 years. My daughter is 26 years old already. And my wife recently said, "Hey, do you realize that, you know, last time once a week we spend one day as a date night, you know, as a dating day, and that would mean blending our hobby. I mean, we are very different. We are very different people. My wife would prefer the shopping. You know, I'm the typical man that just go head straight to what I want, get it, and then get out, right? And so it's about compromising. It's about looking at things from each other's perspective and angle. All right. So I like fishing, right? But she doesn't like going out into the sun and whatnot. So we are not going to take the boat and head out to the sea. In any case, when we are on circuit breaker, you're not supposed to do that. We take the boat out to the sea anyway. And so we cure each by going to, you know, pay ponds where you pay and fish, right? And she don't fish like I do. I go for the giant ones that, you know, when you catch and then you take a photo and then you quickly release the fish, right? And got her interested into prawning. And so here I am on the other side fishing, and there she is on the other side prawning. And we're not going to eat those prawns because, you know, her prawning skills. Okay, I hope she's not looking at this. The prawning skills is not catching enough for us to cook a dish, right? And so what I do is, you know, the prawns that she caught become my baits for fishing. So yeah, you know, setting time, date night, you know, having a movie night. We have this comedy Friday because my daughter is off on Friday. She works in retail space, and as you know, retail means 7 days a week, right? And she's off on Friday. So Friday, you know, every Friday we take turns to offer what we are going to be watching. We're always picking comedies, stand-up comedians, or something funny, right? Yeah. So we have abundance of all of this, right? And more so now with all the unlimited data at home. Hey, you got data, make use of it, right?
That's right. Yeah. And one of the things you mentioned was that you know, like, oh, women like to go around shopping, and then men just go in and out, right?
My wife is my shopping directory. If I go to any mall, you know, whatever shop I want to go to, just ask her. You know, skip the information counter.
Yeah. So one of the biggest challenges in our society today is that the lines between men and women are being blurred, right? You know, what is it like to be a man? What is it like to be a woman? You know, should there be any definitions? Should there even be a line at all? What are your comments on that?
I think it's about appreciating the differences, right? Like I said earlier on, we have the power of choice. So I can choose to look at something as an irritation, or I can choose and look at something and go like, that's interesting, that's cute, right? Yeah, so I think it's a great opportunity, right? Women like to communicate. So now staying at home, yeah. So man, if you don't learn how to communicate with her, she will be nagging at you. So
Mm-hmm.
do something, learn how to communicate
Yep.
with one another. Really take time to talk to each other. Here's what I recently did with all the couple therapy. One of the recommendations I give them: if you know that you guys are going to get into an argument already, because there's always this trigger, right? Okay, these two words together usually starts an argument. Either one party start using these two words, usually end in an argument, and the two words are "you always" and whatever comes, right? And then where got always, right? And then
Mhm.
the whole argument start. Um, so one of the things I shared with the couples were, you know that the trigger is presenting itself already, and that from our past experiences, I mean, we're all creatures of patterns and program, right? Hence NLP, neuro linguistic programming, right?
Mhm.
So we all run our programs. You know you're going to get into an argument, hold hands with each other first. Hold hands first, then you argue.
Mm.
And most times they go like, how to hold hands when argue. There's no how to. I already told you how to, and that is just grab her hand and come to this agreement, when both are calm, that we are going to do that. Just hold hand first. Okay, so now you say what you want to say. You were saying. Uh,
Oh.
and I think that kind of dissolves the tension straight
Mm.
away, isn't it?
I think that's a beautiful thing, that you shared right there. It can help diffuse so many problems in the relationship.
Yeah.
But I think also what does get in the way of actually executing that is our egos. So it's
Mm.
like, no, I'm right. Why should I be the one initiating? Right.
One of the things we teach in NLP, or one of the first things we teach in NLP, because a part of NLP is mindset, principles, philosophies of life, right? Um, so one of the things begin with, you are in charge of your own mind and therefore your own results. All right. Within every one of us, we know what are the right things to do. We know what are the wrong things to do. Just too often, we act before we think. Start putting on a thinking cap first. Think, then you talk, then you act. All right. Don't just, you know, otherwise you're no different from an animal and a creature, isn't it?
Mm.
We are supposedly higher beings because of our capabilities
Yep.
to think, to analyze things,
Mm.
right? So make use of these capabilities.
Yep. So how do people tap into these capabilities? For example, yeah, we talk about the lockdown and effects on the mental health. Some people are driven towards the edge where they're depressed and then they may have suicidal thoughts.
Yeah.
How do people break that pattern to see hope or the light?
Hope separates the quitters of today from the winners of tomorrow. There's in fact, long ago in the arena of self-help, there's the big thing about the psychology of hope. Hope gives us energy. Hope gives us drive. Hope gives us a sense of purpose, a sense of mission, which are thoughts, given juice. They can become motivation. So we can do something about it. So I think one, you know, reorganizing, re-examining your goals, right? And then set new goals, set new targets, develop new hobbies, develop new capabilities. No matter how good you are, you can always be better. So think, what is it that you have always wanted to achieve, but haven't got around to doing anything about it? Now's the time. What is it that you've always wanted to do, but never got around to doing it? This is the time. What is it that you want to be having in your life, but you haven't got around to having them or enjoying them? Now is the time. And who is it that you want to be that you never got around to become? I think it's a good time and a good opportunity to upgrade your own OS now.
Mm.
Update your internal apps now. all right, get current. And of course, a lot of these emotional problems, the suicidal thoughts, the stress, anxiety, they are very real, right? So for one, let's not discount each other. Understand that you may be more resilient compared to others, or that you're made, or that maybe you're just operating from ego, as you mentioned earlier on. One of the things we discover is whenever ego is high, results are always low.
Mm.
And for some reasons, these two work opposite of each other. If you want to have more results in your life, the ego must go down.
Mm.
Age-old wisdom, isn't it? We talk about you give and then you take. If your hand is holding on to the ego, how can you free yourself to grab hold of results when they come by? How
Mm.
can you seize possibilities and opportunities? If you're so crowded and all you see are just challenges and difficulties, you have no time for possibilities and opportunities.
Mm. Now,
So
when
to me, I thought this was actually a great time to explore new things. For instance, 24 years ago when I started being a professional speaker and trainer, I recognized that being on my own, nobody sets KPI for me. All right, I don't have a target set by the boss and the company's mission to accomplish and my KPIs to accomplish and all of that. Then I better be setting something for myself to aim at. Because if you have nothing to aim, then you're aimless, right?
Mhm.
And if you're aimless, you start to wonder, all right? Then the mind start to be occupied with all sorts of nonsense, and we start accumulating and poisoning ourselves, right? So start by so I started and I set a goal for myself that in this career, that in this lifetime, I want to do training, I want to do personal coaching, I want to do keynote speeches for 1 million people. Now, so along the way, I was hard at work traveling from country to countries. Ooh, I hit like more than 50 countries delivering training speeches and coaching services to clients all over the world. Um, and at the end of last year, I was at the 920,000 mark. So versus a million that I've said, I mean, it's just 80,000, right? So near, yet so far. All right. And of course, I don't have that kind of energy like I used to have.
Mm.
I have become more physically handicapped and more immobile, and it was getting more challenging. Just when I thought that this 1 million is going to be a dream, the pandemic kicks in. I'm forced to do online live streams and videos and everything. And I've only done like what 20 live streams so far and videos so far.
Mm.
The first few, each of them hit like 67,000 views, 70,000 plus views, and all of that. Guess what? It's more than a million now,
Right.
all while staying at home.
Yeah.
So it's an opportunity. It's a time for us to stretch ourselves and start doing the things that we've always wanted to do, but never got around to doing. That's one area we can explore, which I believe on its own is enough to keep you busy. Now, if you're one of those people with a lot of time and really energetic type of people, start making the list of things that you don't like to do, that you don't want to do, and then examining this task. Because I believe the things you don't want to do may be the things you have to do in
Mm.
order to make a huge difference in your life.
Mm.
So that's the second thing that I believe can keep you really, really busy.
Very good. Yeah. So how do people discern between the things that's not meant for them to
Mm.
do versus the things that they need to do? Because that line of discernment at times can be very fine.
Mm-hmm. I think it's the same thing as like a lot of us, or at least earlier on in my life, in my career. I find myself trying out many different things, wanting many different things, only to realize that there are certain things that, hey, when I get it, it's no big deal. It doesn't give me a tremendous sense of fulfillment and satisfaction. Oh, yes, all human beings seek fulfillment in our life. Different times of our life, we have different needs that need to be fulfilled and satisfied. And hence, it's always important to take inventory within yourself. All right, we use a technique called values elicitation and hierarchy of values. And what it means is, get a piece of paper out and start asking yourself what is important to you in life. And then with everything and anything that pop up in your mind, write them down. Yeah. Now, if you're like me in the 50s, then I can quite safely say the list would easily have 50 items. Because think about it, if you only learn one value a year, by the time you reach age 50, you have at least 50 items, right?
Yep.
So young people like yourself and all that, okay, easily a list of 25, 30 items, right? Once you have that list, start prioritizing that list. Putting a number next to each of these values, each of these driving force, each of these things that you deem to be important for you in your life. All right, and then start organizing them in a hierarchy, and that's what we mean by hierarchy of values. So relabeling them, and there must only be one number one and one number two. There cannot be two number ones, right?
Yep.
And once you have labeled them, just look at the top 5 and ask yourself, if you have these top 5 in your life, can you do without the rest? If you find that your answer is yes, then what happens is you've just discovered your top 5 priorities, your top 5 inner driving forces that in our terminology in NLP, we call that values. Right? It simply refers to the inner driving forces, the forces that operate within you that make you do the things you do or avoid the things that you avoid. All right. Now with that, you should get clarity on your goals, whether you want to change your goals, redesign your goals, realign your goals, reorganize your goals and your life or not. Because I can quite safely say, the Pareto principle, quite logical. We all know that you're supposed to use 80% of your time, effort, and energy on things that are of 80% significance. Yet, if you think back the past 6 months, did you use 80% of your time, effort, and energy on things that are of 80% significance to you? Or did we actually use 80% of our time, energy, and effort on things that are of only 20% significance to us? Have we been prioritizing? Have we been doing the right things? Okay, granted, we were busy, we were very occupied. So now you have time. And it's a great time to start organizing your own life, realigning your own direction, making new self-discovery, right? As well as discover something about your spouse. All this while you've been too busy to see, to observe, to listen, right? Start talking to one another. Right? Even taking out an old photo album and going through it together can be a lot of fun. Yeah, we have a lot of laughter and all of that. And my daughter wants me to keep back my curry puff hairstyle, or so she described it to be.
We'll need to dig out some old photos of that. Yeah.
Yeah. I think one of the things, you want to reorganize your life, you got to reorganize your space. How many of us have been hogging things?
Yeah.
While we are clearing up within ourselves, externally, physically clearing out things and space, also open up more space in our minds and our hearts. As you go through some of these things, and when you look at things, because we make associations, our memories make associations. You start looking at some of the old photographs and all of that, start bringing back some of the old memories, does it? Yeah, that can be a good use of time.
That's beautiful. You shared a lot of
we just forget, so couples start to get angry with one another. Why? Because when it comes to love, a lot of people believe that I have to extract love, get love from my spouse, from my partner. And when you find that, if you've been together for years, you've been extracting and withdrawing and withdrawing and withdrawing, soon there's not much for you to withdraw anymore. So instead of being a withdrawer, become a giver. If you have pleasantness within yourself, if you have joy within yourself, if you have love within yourself, you become a giver of love. So think about it. How beautiful would that be if you're in a family where everyone realizes this, where everyone take responsibility to manage themselves, to be in pleasant states, to be in a joyful state, to be in a loving state. We are all giver of positive emotions. And forget about changing the world. I mean, that's what I wanted to do when I first became a motivational speaker and a trainer. I want to motivate the world.
Mm-hmm.
Guess what? Some people don't want to be motivated.
That's
We
true.
believe in let live, respect them for what they want in their life, and people will do what they want to do, right? But that's people. That's their business,
Yep.
right? It's not my business. I'm busy enough if I focus myself into my business and start reorganizing my business.
That's right. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So not making any contribution, you become a nobody.
Yep.
Only focusing on yourself and nothing else. Your focus is always my body. Always
Mm.
focusing, poking your nose into someone else's business, you are busybody. So instead of nobody, my body, busybody, be somebody.
Mm.
Start doing something significant, and I think it starts from us.
Wonderful.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and we don't have to change the world. Just create a little bit of positive ripples around, pay it forward
Yep.
with our immediate circle lah. Start with your own household,
That's right. Yeah.
rekindling some of those positive memories. What brought the family together? What brought you and your partner together?
Mm-hmm.
Right? Instead of finding challenges in the differences, start appreciating the differences
Yep. Yep. Yep.
and acknowledge that we are all different.
Mm-hmm.
I can't make you the being that I would like you to be, right? But what I do can influence you.
Mm-hmm.
And so do I want to be a positive influence in the world? Or do I want to be one of those toxic people that people would rather avoid?
Yep. Yep.
Your presence, does it bring joy? So among some of the quotations I've written, I recommend that we must all let our presence create contributions and not pollution.
Mm.
There's enough of this pollution going on around already, isn't it?
Wonderful. Yeah. I think that's something that we have to consciously put into practice, be aware of what we put out in this world. And
Mm.
I like to read what teacher Kian has shared in our comment section. He
Right.
was referring previously on what we shared.
Mm.
Our inner self, subconscious love uh, us unconditionally and have a great opinion of ourselves. When we think thoughts which are
Mhm.
contrary to our ideal selves, that's where negative emotions come in. So
Mhm.
negative emotions are a message telling us that we are thinking thoughts which are harmful to our goals.
Right. See, so emotions are simply thoughts that are given the juice.
Mm,
And because it has the juice, it becomes a driver and it can become a very powerful driver. People motivated by pain and negative emotions, those emotions can drive them to do really terrible things and harm a lot of people. Right? But similarly, we are responsible for our own emotions. Nobody create those emotions for you.
mm,
And if someone else is making you angry, that's because you allow it. Right? So why should someone else's action triggers anger in me? Why should someone else's action upset me and rock my boat? I'm the captain of my own boat. I'm the master of my own life. I
mhm,
live by design and not by default.
mm. Yeah. So I believe in NLP, you all talk about thoughts, feelings, actions, and results.
Actually, it's not so much an NLP thing, but
Okay.
yeah. Okay, so your thoughts plus your feelings plus your actions equals your results.
Yeah. So is there such a thing then where a a feeling can come in without a thought preceding it?
Actually, no. While I will not say what starts first, yeah, I'm pretty sure it all starts with a thought. The thing about why we are not so sure and we don't know yet is because a lot of this happens very unconsciously.
Mm,
Before we know it, it already happened because we already acted. All right. But those actions must be underpinned by emotions and thoughts. right? So I call this the simple TFA equation. Your thoughts plus your feelings plus your action equals your results. So in any situation, if the results are negative, you need to re-examine your thoughts plus your feelings and your actions. You cannot be having positive thought and then feeling negative and acting negative. You just can't, right? Just doesn't make sense. Yeah. So beginning with the thoughts. As I said before, if your belief systems are not liberating, then they are limiting. Beliefs, there's no half-half. You're either positive or you're negative about something, right? With your
Yeah.
thoughts.
Mm-hmm.
And you're in charge of your mind and therefore your results. So start by organizing your thoughts. Instead of these negative thoughts, what would I like to think instead? If I get to choose my thoughts right now, and we do. If I get to choose my thoughts, what would I like to think? Instead of feeling all these negative feelings like I felt before, what would I like to feel? Instead of doing what I used to do, what would I like to do instead? And now let me examine these new thoughts, these new feelings and actions. Does it help me to create positive results? Actually, speaking of which, I have it here. Yeah, created a little a coaching system. This is called the intelligence response cards, the think, feel, and action cards. So what happened was we organized it this way. Within the cards, there are 3 colors. The yellow color cards are the thinking cards. Right? Yeah. And the purple color cards are the feeling cards. Feeling cards has got 2 sides to it. Yeah. Because feelings have 2 sides. Yeah. Yeah. So on the one hand, you feel useful. On the other hand, you feel useless, right? So that's feelings. And then there's the actions. Okay. So what we do with this deck of cards when we use it for coaching, whether it's coaching someone or coaching self, is think about a situation that has happened, of which you know what the results is. Revisit that situation, start picking up what were the thoughts that went on in your mind. All right, pick these thoughts up. And along with these thoughts, what feelings did you feel when it happened? What actions did you take? Because then it's very clear for you. You can see it right in front of you. And you know where the potential problem is and where the potential change should occur.
Wow, that's a very valuable tool right there, where you can really physically see it and pinpoint.
Yeah, we just felt that in coaching, sometimes the use of tools, coaching tools like that, help a lot, particularly with teenagers and children. I believe that in so doing, when we share something like that, when we teach them something like that, we're giving them a gift for life. Because all of their life, it's the sum total of all the little results you get in all of life situations. When you add all of that together, are you achieving what you wanted to achieve?
Yep. Yeah.
But okay, let's go back to the basics. You must first know what you want to achieve. Right? So know where you are, know where you want to go. Identify the potential challenges, equip yourself, empower yourself with the necessary knowledge, skills, and abilities. Right? Start taking actions to overcome each of them, and very soon you'll be at your goal.
Okay, yeah. So I understand that you have to go off soon. So I just have one last question for
We
you.
have an hour. Yeah,
Yeah.
but okay, we can chat. Yes.
Yep. So yeah, so with all of this, where do our thoughts come from? What are the origins of our thoughts?
It's all a cycle. Right? We call this the NLP's communication model, and that means, right, whatever happened to us, whatever we have learned in our life, they all come from our external environment. We see, we hear, we smell, we taste, we feel these things, right? And this information will get into us. Now, before getting into our brain, our psychology, we have this filter, and these filters will generalize the information that we receive. We will delete certain information, and we distort certain information. And the reason we do that is because the amount of information and data that comes from our external environment, there's so much data that if we were to be processing and digesting everything, we go crazy. We have no time to do anything else. And so our brain conveniently just generalize things, delete information, and distort information. That forms what we call our internal representation, our mindset. And that means how we perceive the external world inside, within ourselves, right? So that's where the thoughts come from. You get the thoughts. And I say it's a cycle because these thoughts will produce feelings, and these feelings will drive actions. And your action input into the external environment start to bounce back, right? So like very much like the law of attraction, if you
Yep.
prefer to call it that, right? But perception is projection.
Mm.
So where do these thoughts come from? I guess there's a time we don't know what to think. Like when we were born, before we were born, we don't know what to think. But very soon, we start to absorb all the information. So according to Macy's life development curve, when we are age 0 to 7, we are at an imprint period. That means our brain is open to receiving everything, imprinting everything inside. So parents play critical role in the development of personalities and characters of your children. And so age 0 to 7, they start to absorb all of these things. And soon, with all of this accumulated, you have a basis, some data, some information as a basis for you to analyze other data. So you subsequently generalize, delete, and distort because you have formed a certain mindset around it. That's why we call it a mindset. The mind is set. That's what you will see. That's what you will hear. That's what you will feel, right? So if you're looking for dirt, I can put you in the cleanest room in the whole world. Guess what you'll find? You find that. So it really becomes a vicious cycle. All right. So when we have now this power of consciousness and mindfulness, I think this is where we need to become mindful and become aware. Start tuning into within ourselves. Because your external environment is a direct manifestation of your internal environment.
Yeah. So
So if you want things to change, you got to change.
Yep. Yeah. So yeah, because within all of this, the thoughts that comes to my mind is that, you know, do we just come into this world with our inner values that's inherent in us? I understand that you have tools like enneagrams, which you run as well.
Personality profiling tools.
Yeah. Are values inherent in us once we're born, or is it, as you say, we absorb the information and then from there we develop our values?
Right. So there was a time we don't know what to think, we don't know what to feel, or at least if I felt something, I don't know what this is called. Unfortunately, for a lot of adults, they don't know how to live with their own feelings. Emotional literacy is very bad. Yeah. As they're not even aware that they are the problem. I mean, if everybody has problem with you, you got to be the problem, right? Yeah. So it's about being aware. So that there was a time we don't know, but when we know, we need to start to become aware and start to use our mindfulness. Start to pay attention to our thoughts, our feelings, our actions, reorganize them. So yes, you are who you are now because of whatever happened to you in the past, of which I still believe you had a hand in creating it. Whether it's a big hand or a small hand, you had a hand in creating it, right? But what becomes of the future depends on what you do now. So I like writing, I think I've written like tons of hundreds of quotations and all. We are all products of our past, but we don't have to be prisoners of our future. Instead of rewriting our history, be the author of your future story. Right? So I become the me today, which if I now analyze and being honest with myself, I don't quite like. There's certain personality aspects of me or whatever not. Even if you've done a profile and all of that, guess what? You develop those personalities. And they change over time in response to situations, in response to external environment, in response to what we do or what we fail to do within ourselves. And that develops you. Hence, I say, whatever personality types you are, there will always be your strengths, there will always be your weaknesses. Right? Continue, focus, develop your strength. Right? But definitely work on your weaknesses as well. Right? But don't just focus on working on all your weaknesses. A lot of times, these are my weaknesses. So much I need to overcome and all.
Yeah.
A lot of times people forget their strength. All right,
Mm.
you need to strengthen your strength so that becomes your significant strength zone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's a lot of homework to be done if you like. I think the actual learning happens when our session ends.
Yeah. Yeah.
When we start taking time going within ourselves by managing ourselves first, our thoughts, our feelings, our actions, and how we contribute to the results around us. And then involving our loved ones, our family members, our kids into this sphere of knowledge, this sphere of mindfulness, this sphere of taking responsibility for our results. And everyone take a small little step, and before you know it, that's how we get to where we want to go. The journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
Yep. Wonderful. And with that, I'd like to thank you, Billy, for taking your time to be on
Thanks for having me. Thank
yeah,
you. Yeah, because
yeah,
otherwise I'm not doing the live streams.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
you're doing on Tuesday, which was what I used to do.
Yep, yep, yeah. So maybe you created a vacuum where I had to fill in the space.
Law of attraction. See, the
Yeah,
perception is projection.
that's right. Yeah. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you liked what Billy shared, do follow him on his Facebook page. He
Thank
shares
you.
a lot of insights, and do check out his programs. He's one of the best in the industries,
Thank you.
and so hopefully we'll have you back next time to share more of your insights with us. And
Yeah, always welcome an interaction. I'm one of those people where this the circuit breaker and all this lockdown and all has a tremendous impact on me. Right, I like interacting. I love people, and that's one of the primary driving force that got me to doing what I do. Right, so transforming people, inspiring lives, my tagline.
wonderful. So again, thank you very much, Billy, and everybody do subscribe to my YouTube channel. That's the Thinkers Lounge, to discover more wonderful and great thinkers with wonderful and beautiful insights like Billy. So
Thank
thank you
you,
very much, everybody.
thank you, thank you. Bye.
Bye.